Kingsman, The Golden Circle, is directed by Matthew Vaughn and has a laundry list of stars in this movie. There are
Oscar
so
winners,
many. Yeah, just like
left and right.
I'm not going to go into it. There's just a lot of them. So, Dennis, we both liked the first one.
Oh, yes.
I loved the first one. I thought it was something different for a spy movie, action movie. It was just really quirky and fun and just a good time at the movies. So, what do you think of the second one? Does it hold up to the first?
I think it really does. I think that I'm really a true believer that there aren't any original stories left. So I think that the challenge for filmmakers these days is to take these stories that have been told before and make them original by telling them differently, maybe adding a sense of style. Because once again, there aren't any really original stories left.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I gotta say Matthew Vaughn is one of my favorite working directors today. This guy brings tons of style, tons of fun and action to his movies, and I think it showed in the first Kingsman, it showed in Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, all the movies he's directed, and I think it also shows in this one.
I think you're right about Matthew Vaughn as a director. I really like his style. I think the action is incredibly well executed, and especially the very first scene. Like, what a cool scene that was to open this movie up with. I also like his use of transitions. He has some really cool transitions in there that just like splice over the scenes. It really makes the movie flow a little bit better. I don't think this one even touches near to how great the first one was, though.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of problems that I have with this movie, and there's a lot of good things about this movie as well, but my expectations were very high. I compare this a little bit to, my expectations for this was like my expectations for John Wick 2. You know, I really love the first one. I love the world that they built. I love the style that they developed. And then in this one, I wanted them to move it forward, and they did, but I felt like they were so self-aware, it's a little bit... This one's just a little bonkers for me. It was a little ridiculous, this movie.
Well, the first one's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, but this one goes a little over the top.
The first one was over the top.
This one goes way over the top.
I think that's what you have to expect when you're going into these movies. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be over the top. And there were parts of this movie, where I was catching myself thinking, is this going too far? But then I just let myself go and let myself enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
I was remembering something you told me that Kevin Smith said. Don't review the movie you wanted to see. Review the movie you saw.
I know.
So with this one, I leaned in to the adventure. And
right.
I will say this. I did hope that it would break new ground, kind of like the first one did. And it didn't with this one. But that's something I think that's kind of inherent to the spy genre, especially when it comes to a franchise, that it's kind of the same. I'd say that's my biggest complaint about this movie. It's kind of the same. But, you know, like the Jason Bourne movies, they're all kind of the same.
Yeah.
The James Bond movies, they're all kind of the same. So I think it's inherent with the spy franchise, but like I said, to take this franchise idea with the spy genre and make it all tired and old, it's Matthew Vaughn. He has the style to it. So me personally, I had a great time. I think if you like the first one, you'll enjoy the first one, well, for most part at least.
I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I think the pacing was a little bit different for me because I didn't like the characters in this one as much as I did for the first one. Julianne Moore was not the greatest villain, in my opinion. I like Julianne Moore. I don't think she was a very good choice for this. I liked her lair and where she was, but the whole thing starts off with a bang, and it starts off so cool, and I love it. And then all of a sudden, it switches, and I literally felt a 45-minute lull where I was like, can we just get back to it? Nothing really happens for a very good portion of it. And on top of that, there's one particular cameo in this movie, and they didn't even leave it as a cameo. It's in there way too much. Way too much to the point where I'm like, there are awesome characters that they're leaving out entirely, while this character's getting more action and lines than some of our better actors, and I was like, I can't take this anymore. Like, get him off the screen.
But I think that kind of plays into the self-awareness where they're like, I will agree with you, the cameo was
that was ridiculous.
But like the lengths that the ridiculousness went through, I just think that, you know, it's almost self-aware, a little too self-aware, winky at times. But at the same time, it's like, you know, these movies, they bring, you know, these big Hollywood movies pack a cameo sometimes, and sometimes it's...
But this was eye-rolling cheesy. Like, if his intention is to be like, I'm going to throw it at him all the time because it'll be funny for, like, us, but not the audience. Because it wasn't funny. It just wasn't that funny after a while. It just seemed like they weren't utilizing all these assets they had to their full ability.
Well, I think that it's kind of one of those things where one of the few things about this movie that rubbed me the wrong way was there was kind of a little franchise building in there, especially with Channing Tatum, because he's just like, it's just one of those things where I think Channing Tatum has the real glorified cameo. He's in it for a scene, another scene, and then he's like incapacitated for most of the movie. I would call that the glorified cameo more than the one that we're talking about, even though that is the true cameo. We knew Channing Tatum was.
He was the necessary character to be in it, but instead we got a crappy cameo that was in there every other scene for some reason.
I disagree. I mean, that cameo you're talking about, not to stay on the subject too long, it did wear out its welcome eventually, but I thought it was pretty fun.
There are some standout scenes, though. I think there are some really cool action set pieces, including like a mountain snow scene that I really, really enjoyed that one. And I think I would have enjoyed the ending scene if it just, I was feeling a little worn out. I think it does the length thing. It's about an hour or 2 hours and 22 minutes, so it was a little bit running a tad long. And aside, the whole thing, the first scene really like blew it out. Like, it was amazing, and no other action scene lived up to the first scene for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I did enjoy the action in this movie. I think that Matthew Vaughn has a real unique style, and there is this kind of like ridiculousness, like over stylization of it. But once again, I think that just all plays into the movie.
Right, and I can take Looney Tunes kind of like, there's a little Looney Tuny to it a little bit here and there, and I like that to a certain extent. But this one, it just felt a little offbeat. But yeah, there was no like church scene. There was no church standout scene. I thought he was going to try to top the church standout scene, but he didn't really.
Well, I'm kind of glad he didn't do that, because there are some moments, and especially in sequels, where you have these standout moments. Like one of the things in retrospect, I didn't like about X-Men Apocalypse is how they tried to recreate the Quicksilver scene. Yeah. Just like kind of beat for beat. Cool style. So it's just, I'm kind of glad when they don't try to just retread that. There are some callbacks to old jokes. Yep. And I will say you're not as emotionally invested in this one, because in the first one, when like it's getting towards the climax, the world's going to chaos, you have personal connections with Eggsy as to why this needs to stop. Whereas this, it just kind of felt just a little forced. There was a personal connection, but I wasn't sitting there like, I hope Eggsy can save this person. Like, I wanted him to save his mom and sister in the first one.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of just like, you're getting to know the characters. That's a problem with a lot of sequels. Well, at least a challenge for a lot of sequels is that you know these characters already. So how are you going to get them in situations that are more compelling or more like dire than the first one? And that's always like, you know, you don't get to learn what the Kingsman is. You kind of learn more of what the Statesmen are.
Right. And I just like, and I like how they continued the world building. I liked the ridiculousness of this franchise, and like the gadgets and all the terminology and everything that they use, and a lot of ridiculousness thrown at the screen. I think you really have to lean into this movie.
I think, you're probably right. I guess I don't know. I felt like the first one just struck a nice balance of comedy, quirkiness, and action, while this one just took it a little too far for me.
I will say this one isn't as well polished as the first one, but I still think this is a very enjoyable sequel, and especially when you have so many sequels that just try to retread by masking it as like doing something new. This one, it's like, no, it's a spy movie. Yeah. You're gonna get chased around the world. You're gonna have a big action sequence. You're gonna have a lot of fun. There's gonna be dirty jokes in there, and I think that I'm really looking forward to the Kingsman franchise moving forward. I just want these ridiculous action movies.
This movie's not gonna make me stop watching them if they make more, but I just wasn't as impressed as I thought I would be.
Buffs. All right, Nate, looks like we had some different opinions and thoughts on this one, but why don't you go ahead and put your score on this?
Okay. Well, I think that a lot of my opinions on this are personal opinions. I think that some of the negatives, from my perspective, might actually be positive for other people, such as yourself and just other people that want to enjoy a nice, fun movie. But for me, this movie just didn't rub me the way I thought it would. But I'm not going to not recommend going and see it. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, okay. I just thought you were a little bit down on it. I just kind of expected a lower score.
No, I mean...
Well, what'd you give the first one? Just as a means of comparison.
8.5. Okay. Probably.
Yeah, I gave the first one an 8.5. I'm going to go a shade lower on this one. I did enjoy this, and once again, I think that with the spy genre franchises, you have to expect more of the same. Because if you look at all of them, the movies are very similar. But with this one, it's got the style, it's got the fun. It's not as fun as the first one. It's got good characters, good dialogue, not as good characters and dialogue as the first one. So I'm just going to go a shade lower than my 8.5 for the first one. I'm going to give Kingsman the Golden Circle a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. I thought you were actually going to go a little higher than that. But I like I said, my gripes are personal, but this is popcorn fun. Like, you are entertained through this movie.
Yeah. And I think that was like kind of just like a personal defense mechanism while I was in the theater, where it's just like I'm trying to pick out flaws. I'm like being a little too over analytical when there's lots of fun stuff happening on the screen. So I leaned into it, and I really embraced this movie.
Yeah.
Buffs.
So that's a review of Kingsman, The Golden Circle. What do you guys think of the movie? What do you guys think of the Kingsman series in general? Leave all your comments below. And also don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We always appreciate the support.
And be sure to join us next week as we review the new Tom Cruise movie, American Made. He's reteaming with Doug Liman, the Edge of Tomorrow director, so let's hope he can pick it up. Just after The Mummy and Jack Reacher, we got
flopping lately.
We got a real sour taste in our mouth for Tom Cruise. But hey, with every new movie's a new opportunity, so we'll bring you that review next week. But until then, don't forget,
there's no place like the theater.